Alright, this is Sig Boy's Super Late Gamescom Adventure, the continuation. This time I'm talking about one of the biggest games there and one of the most anticipated games, Final Fantasy VII. I'm talking about the remake, of course. And yeah, I got to play a bit of it, so let's talk about it. But before I actually talk about the demo I played, I want to mention one thing Square is doing, which is kind of weird. This doesn't reflect on the full game, but the demo I played looked, from a visual standpoint, real bad. The game was blurry, specifically like Cloud's hair was incredibly blurry, and there was a lot of dithering going around the hair. And overall, just like the visual sharpness of the game, it looked like someone turned the PC settings to ultra low and then messed around in the text files and the files of the game and turned it down even more. So that was also the case with Final Fantasy 15. And when I first saw 15, I was like, oh no, is this how the game looks? Because this ain't good. But then the game came out and it looked real nice. That's going to be the same thing with Final Fantasy 7, because after thinking a bit about it, it kind of makes sense. What I played was an early build of the game, and my presumption is Square Enix wanted to make sure that the game runs smoothly, that there's no frame issues, like I said, and therefore they kind of turned the game into low resolution mode, I guess you could say, just to make sure the game runs decently for the people who play it. So, as far as the demo goes, it was a very short part. It's early on in the game, and I should mention I have never played any Final Fantasy. What I know from the Final Fantasy series is through osmosis, which is quite a bit, but not too much. What we played was what you see in the E3 presentation, which is early on in the game. I think it's actually the first boss of the original game. The tank scorpion thing. You start off in the area, so the mech scorpion battle is down below, but it doesn't take too long to get there. It's a very linear part. It's just you walking straight forward, opening a chest, getting I think an elixir or ether or something, going down the staircase, fighting a few soldiers, continuing on, fighting then a few drones, and then the boss fight. So the gameplay is, when I saw the game in action, I thought, oh, this is Final Fantasy 15's gameplay, but in the Final Fantasy 7 setting. And it's not. It takes a very basic idea of 15's combat, but overhauls it completely. While 15 might be a bit more quote-unquote action or reflex focused, 7 kind of nails that mix between a real-time battle system and a more turn-based approach. So how it works is when you press the square button, you do a slash. When you press square a few times, you do a slash combo. You have a dodge and a block button, but you can't dodge mid-animation. So if you're doing an attack, you're stuck in that animation until it's done, and then and only then can you dodge. Which was incredibly weird for me, because I've never really played any action game or any adventure game that does that. But that's just the thing. Final Fantasy isn't an action game per se, it's an RPG. And that was interesting to me. Once I just kind of thought about it, I was like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. When you press attack, and Cloud does the attack, whatever's gonna happen next, if the enemy attacks as well, that's gonna hit. So basically the main gameplay loop is gonna be you hitting a dude or a bunch of dudes with your basic attack, filling up your ATB meter, and once one pip is full, you can pause the game, go into super duper slow-mo mode by pressing, I think, triangle or X, I don't remember which one. And then you got your options. You can do an attack, you can do magic, or use an item. You can also just switch to Barret, which was my other character in the game. Those were the only 2 playable characters. So you select which attack you want to do, and then the character does that attack or uses that item or that magic. The ATB meter is independent for every character, so if Cloud has 1 ATB pip, that means Cloud can do a thing, but if Barret's is not full, he can't, and vice versa. A lot of the game is you doing the attacks, pausing the game, selecting an attack for you or your partner character, and doing a thing. An interesting way to make a character like Barret a bit more interesting, because like when you're playing an RPG, it's just like, oh, these are the stats, they have these strengths and weaknesses. But when you're playing something that's a bit more involved, I guess you could say, they kind of change things up by making Barret the character you have to use to deal with ranged enemies. There's a small part just before the boss where you have to fight a few drones or turrets, and those are just out of range for Cloud's attacks, so you have to switch to Barret and he shoots them down. When the battle is done, you automatically switch back to Cloud, but you can play as Barret when you're in combat. So once the 3 or 4 small battles are done, Barret's like, yo, Cloud, plant this bomb, and Cloud plants the bomb, and you get this little cutscene. I don't know if this was in the original, I doubt it. I feel like that's in addition to the remake, but as he's planting the bomb, he's getting kind of this vision flash thingy, and he sees a little black feather falling next to him, and it disappears when it hits the ground. Very, very cinematic, I guess you could say. I don't think that's in the original. I don't know, maybe it is, but it didn't come over as being in the original. As soon as that happens, the giant scorpion tank robot comes out and the boss battle starts, and that just that battle takes a while, and that kind of solidifies the main gameplay loop, which is ///, maybe dodge or block a few times when needed. When you're approaching the enemy, usually you block and walk forward, and you just slash a few times. Your ATB is full, now you do a special attack. The problem was the game was in German, so I did not know which attacks did, like, what I specifically needed to do, if there were any attacks that did more damage than anything else, like if the robot had any weaknesses to certain attacks, because there's a lot going on screen, and when it's in German and you press X and you want to select an attack with Cloud and it says Schwiebel Schwabe or some shit, you're like, what the fuck, what even's going on? So yeah, no, overall I was actually impressed with the game. I thought it was just going to be Final Fantasy 15's combat system, but it's more traditional turn-based RPG. It's a good blend of slight action with more tactical, with a more tactical approach. I was genuinely impressed, and I liked what I played. There's not a doubt in my mind that this game is going to be good to a certain degree. I don't know if the overworld is gonna have anything interesting or anything. It's just like the demo was meant to show off what the main gameplay loop is like, and what the main gameplay loop is like is fun and interesting and engaging, and very much like a mix between it's very close to an old school RPG, but without being strictly turn-based, which is great. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of thinking involved with it. So yeah, that's about all I wanted to say. Final Fantasy VII Remake seems to be a cool game. Be sure to check in next time, where I'll be talking about other games, Doom Eternal, Battletoads, and Avengers. So be sure to check back frequently to see which impressions I'll upload next. I'll see you then.